stays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from offseason to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. It's going to be fun because we're going to get to go through the pressers and what everybody had to say as 49ers personnel and players were kind of reviewing the season and then saying their farewells. It's not a good situation for the team, but you get to know a lot about what you're going to expect in the offseason, and we definitely got some things that pointed us in the right direction.
Yeah, man. A lot of things that pointed us in the right direction. Tons of information. We had Deebo and Bosa information and news being brought up by John Lynch. The fact that he's stating already that their contracts have been budgeted for. They're already accounted for. They already know how they're going to accomplish it, what they're going to be doing. They know what moves they are going to be, certain moves they're going to be making in order to afford the deals that they need to make with them, or what they believe the deals are that they need to make with them. So that's a good news. That's a good sign. I think they have an idea of where their stocks were going to be coming into this year and also going into next year for Bosa and what they're going to be doing. I feel a lot better about that, knowing that there's a plan. They already are thinking long-term down the road in terms of finances and what they have to do. Stunned, Ant. Stunned that a team that's this responsible, fiscally responsible, has an understanding of what the salary cap is and how to maneuver around it, has a plan in place. What a surprise.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you have an idea that these players are going to elevate their game, especially when you know that you're going to be using them in a certain way. And I guarantee from the time that Nick Bosa had his rookie season, they were planning out when exactly they were going to give him the contract, how the salary cap was going to go up and how they're going to be able to, work his contract and how they're going to do it. And then Parag's been working on the, the basic features of it. Of course, there's going to be some give and take because you have, other players that sign big deals that also elevate those contracts. Because it seems like every year some player at every position gets a huge contract. They kind of just boost it up, and Nick Bosa is going to have to be the the most highly paid pass rusher in the league at some point, and that it appears that they're willing to do that. And with Deebo Samuel, it's one of those things where he came on the scene, but I think they all realize that what he meant to this football team, and he's going to be one of the highest paid wide receivers there is in the league. But they budgeted for it, just like they did with George Kittle, just like they did with Fred Warner. It does help that you're going to be on a rookie pay scale with a quarterback. When you're on a rookie pay scale for the quarterback, it gives you a lot of money to spend in other areas. So now it's going to be about building the best possible football team you can around Trey Lance and trying to get, make sure he has weapons like Deebo Samuel to be able to get out there and make plays for him. But it does afford you some opportunities. I mean, we teased this before last offseason that is it not the best situation to just go from rookie pay scale to rookie pay scale to rookie pay scale with quarterbacks in the NFL? Because when you get those high price guys, that's when your team starts struggling to be able to put a roster around your star quarterback, that can compete year in and year out.
100%, man. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this. But look, I think this is the reality, right? Something we've all known and that's been building for some time now. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to get moved off of. You're going to have to move off of it to be able to keep all of these pieces and build a team. Yeah, you can pay a quarterback and have your quarterback be the guy who carries you to Super Bowls and try and carry you to championships. And sometimes it'll work out and sometimes it won't. The Niners are trying to make sure they have the best roster so they can put themselves in a position and win in a variety of different ways. You don't have to just win one way. You can win in a lot of different ways. It makes you hard to beat and hard to stop. They've done what they needed to do. You're going to be making these moves, and Jimmy kind of knows it. Basically, he had his presser yesterday, had his last presser, and it definitely felt like a guy who knows that it's over. I did enjoy the comment from him. I wanted to make sure that I left this place better than when I first came in. And if there is one thing that is 100% certain, this football team is significantly better off than where it was in 2017 when he first came in here. 0-8, no hope in sight, feeling like this team was never going to get out of the doldrums. Was Kyle Shanahan the man for the job? I know a lot of people who felt that way. A lot of 49ers fans who felt that way after a couple of years. They expected the immediate results. We didn't necessarily get the immediate results, Ant, but once you got Jimmy Garoppolo in the building here, it didn't take too much longer for this team to become the team that we all know and love today.
Yeah, and a shocking development, Jimmy Garoppolo handled his final press conference with absolute class. He's a true professional in every sense, and that's why you want somebody like Trey Lance to learn from Jimmy Garoppolo, because now Trey Lance is going to carry himself when circumstances get rough the same way that Jimmy Garoppolo did. He'll see how to respond to the media, how to handle the fans if they boo him, because there will be down times for Trey Lance as well. It's inevitable. I mean, not everyone can live on highs all the time. Even Patrick Mahomes had his struggle, and there will be fans that'll turn on him. That's just the way of the world. But he learned how to handle those things with grace, and that's something that you can definitely say about Jimmy Garoppolo. We can talk all we want about his play on the field, and we can be critical of it. But when it comes to the person that he is off the field and the way that he handles himself as a professional, he gets high marks for that. So this is one of those things that it was inevitable whether he had to win the Super Bowl for a chance to come back. I think that was the only way, and even then it was slight. And he didn't get that done. The team wasn't able to get it done, so now the 49ers are going to be moving in another direction. And Jimmy Garoppolo definitely hinted that by saying that his group is going to be working with the 49ers to work out a trade, and he wants to land somewhere where they want to win. I mean, that's what he wants. I mean, that's something that all quarterbacks want. And Jimmy knows he's got a career ahead of him, and I think there's going to be a lot of suitors that are going to be interested in getting in a guy who has a winning record as a quarterback. Whenever you win 69% of your football games, people want you on their team.
Gronk usually wants you on his team too.
Yeah, usually. And with Tom Brady retiring now from Tampa Bay, there will be a situation where Tampa Bay could be a partner maybe, or there could be Washington or New Orleans. There's questions there. There's questions with
Pittsburgh,
the Steelers,
yeah.
The Denver Broncos. There are teams that are.
There's so many.
Yeah, they're going to need quarterbacks. Quarterback needy teams are out there,
and you don't have a draft this year with the quarterbacks either.
Right, which is interesting because last year it seemed like there was no spots. Right, Cam Newton couldn't find a spot, but now it's opening up nice for the San Francisco 49ers. I think they'll do their best to work out, getting Jimmy where he wants to go. But when it comes down to it, they want to get the most they can get for Jimmy as well.
It's going to be a balancing act of the two things. You're going to want to put him in a position. You want to do right by him by putting him in a position where he feels this is the best situation for him outside of being in San Francisco. But at the same time, you can't afford to give anything up in the process, right? If someone's going to offer you a one and no one else is, Jimmy, I love you, man, but we're going to get that one, and we're going to take that one, and we're going to run with it.
Definitely.
But you're going to balance it out. If it's close between a couple of places, and there's really not a whole lot of difference between the picks, maybe some spots, maybe you got someone who offers a fourth-round pick at the end of the fourth round and someone who offers you a fifth-round pick that's near the front of the fifth round, you're not going to sit there and diddy-daddle over that. It is what it is. It's a few spots here or there. If there's a better situation there, you're going to probably try and get him to a better spot and do right by him the best you can. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this situation. It was a very sombering press conference. I watched it back and just the entire time. The only thing I felt in this is a much different situation than any other situation I've dealt with quarterback issues and dilemmas in terms of how it was handled, how this guy has gone out, and his acceptance of said situation. I think Jimmy just knows it's not even necessarily anything else other than with the money that he currently makes, the money that the 49ers have, the team that you currently have, and the pieces you need to try and bring back in. There's no saving it. There's no fixing this, because the only way to fix it is for Jimmy to take less, for Jimmy to push that contract out and then not be able to take as much money long term. I still think, he's got to feel like he has something to prove, that he can go out there and still be that guy, and someone is going to be willing to pay that money. So why wouldn't I go roll the dice and bet on myself somewhere else? I wouldn't expect an athlete to do anything else. I wouldn't expect a competitor to do anything else than what the decision he is making as well, in terms of his long-term future and his career potential earnings and what he could do. So it makes sense. It's unfortunate that it has to go this way, but man, the way he has handled it, the example he set for Trey Lance, and the way that the locker room has responded to it, the locker room has accepted it, also tells you probably just how honest Kyle and Lynch were with this locker room, with this whole situation. Because it doesn't seem like, I don't see anyone coming out and saying, this is a mistake, yada, yada, yada. There are no nothings here. It's teammates have known this. They've accepted this. They've been talking about this since the regular season ended. This is a group of guys who understand what's going on. And you got guys like BA already getting ready to go work out because they have the same trainer with Trey all offseason and put in the work with him because he knows this is going to be my guy probably coming into next season.
It just feels like it's ran its course. I mean, it's come to the end of the Jimmy Garoppolo time in San Francisco, and I think everyone can feel it. Whether you're a Jimmy stan or a Trey stan or 49er stan, whatever it was, you just feel like
and whether you're doxing Jimmy stans or not.
That's right. Check out Big Yikes for that. But yeah, it feels like it's ran its course. That it's time for Jimmy to move on. It's time for the 49ers to move in another direction. We're appreciative for what he did, and then now we're going to see what happens. But I think the team respects it because, like I told you before, when it comes to competitiveness, if somebody takes your job because they're playing better, you might not like it, but you understand it. And you said you've never really went through this with a quarterback. Several times for us, because Joe Montana was a quarterback here, and when they decided to go with Steve Young, seeing Joe Montana traded to the Kansas City Chiefs was very tough. And I've seen a few people on Twitter. It's not like it was back then, but there's a few people that are going to go wherever Jimmy goes. They are Jimmy stans. Those are the legit Jimmy stans.
Yeah.
They're going to become fans of whatever team he goes for.
And good for them.
And that's fine. But I think Alex Smith's situation is similar as well.
It's close.
Where you have the young cat, that comes up and is kind of taking the spot, and then you're moving the guy on because it's ran its course there.
The only difference between the Alex Smith situation is that Alex Smith didn't get the send-off, right? It got cut short. His opportunity to prove something, and then you move on and go a different direction with a different quarterback, gets cut short because of the concussion. And then the young guy comes in behind him, Kaepernick, and plays really well, starts getting hot. The team's getting hot. The team's winning. You get to a Super Bowl. There's a different vibe this time around. The Smith one felt like you didn't get closure. This one, you're feeling like you're getting closure.
I thought I had closure when they got to the Super Bowl that year. You know what I mean? I really did.
If we had won it, I would have had closure.
I definitely like Alex Smith, but I thought that, Kaepernick was a year farther into the maturation process. It was in the second year.
Than Trey.
I think if you would have got, it would have been similar. But you're right. There are financial reasons as well why they need to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. I think as a person, and that's the part of the problem.
That's the hardest part.
As a person and as a teammate, they all believe he's an all-pro. But I think, the coaches, when they look at him, they know he has a couple elite traits, but he's not an elite quarterback. And they're looking for an elite quarterback. And Kyle Shanahan's, words that he said are always going to ring true in my ear is that you either have an elite quarterback or you're trying to get an elite quarterback.
One of the two.
And so there it is. And that's what they believe. And they thought maybe Jimmy was elite. He hasn't proven to be that. So now they're going to move on to, a guy that they do believe can be elite.
And has plenty of time to prove it as well. I mean, the young guy, sky's the limit. Tons of potential, tons of upside. Kyle talked about it as well. Kyle and Lynch is some of the stuff they talked about in their wrap up of the 2021 season, 2021-2022 season anyway, was essentially that, he feels really good about Trey and his development and where he's at and where he's going and where he's been. He wants him to take some time off and really reflect on how far he's come, what has happened this year. Let it all sink in, because the expectation is now you're going to go out and try and replicate this and do this and then take it to the next step. Get not only to a Super Bowl, but bring that bad boy home. Bring that Lombardi trophy back to Santa Clara and back to San Francisco for this team, this organization. He wants him to reflect a little bit because he wants him to appreciate the journey that he was just on, how difficult it was, not only for him, but for everyone in that locker room, because it was difficult for everybody. And try and wrap your head around the idea that it doesn't get easier. It's going to continue to be this hard. Maybe you guys put some things together and things click and you're able to win some games easier, but the journey, how much you have to grind, the physical style of play, all of that, that remains. That will not go away. It's not going to be like you just walk in the building and things just happen. You're going to have to work harder, if not more, than you did this year if you want to get yourself back, because everyone else in the league, every other team around you, every other team in the NFC, no one is just going to rest on their laurels and sit on their hands and be like, well, we're going to run this all back again and try it exactly the same way next year. People are going to change. They're going to adapt. They're going to adjust, and you have to do the same thing.
I think the one thing you got going for you as the 49ers, number one, you have a future quarterback and then probably a future star in Trey Lance that not a lot of teams in the NFC have. And you look at the NFC moving forward, and it's wide open. Tom Brady's not in Tampa Bay anymore. Sean Payton's not in New Orleans anymore. And then you got, the questions about Russell Wilson. Is he going to get moved in the offseason? Aaron Rodgers, is he going to get moved in the offseason? And if they do, are they both going to be on their way to the AFC? I think it's one of those things where the 49ers are just kind of got to survive. Kind of got to be there, make sure they put a roster together that can play at the level that they played this year. But they need Trey Lance to elevate the quarterback position a little bit beyond what it was this year. And if they can, then they can knock off a team like the Rams. I mean, they're really like one or two players away, right? So hitting one guy in the draft, or getting a Raheem Mostert back, or Trey Lance playing a little bit better than Jimmy played this year, those are all ways that you can get over the hump. So I think a wide open NFC is going to be interesting because it appears that all the big-time quarterbacks are residing in the AFC. All the young cats over there are going to be going crazy, but in the NFC, it's Russ, but he's getting older. It's Dak Prescott. And then it's where's Aaron going to be? You know what I mean? So we haven't seen it from the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray. He's kind of fallen off. So the questions abound, but 49ers, I think, are feeling comfortable about their situation, even though They only have 34 players under contract and got a lot of things to do in the offseason.
Just a smidge, Ant. Just a smidge of things. Just a smidge of guys to sign and discuss and be thinking about. And look, Cutback Crew, you're not going to want to miss some of the later content that's going to be coming out this week and the content that's going to be coming out next week as well, because we are going to be covering all of the free agents by position for the 49ers, who they have, who are the guys that are going to be looking to re-sign, who are the names that are out there in terms of 49ers players that can be re-signed and brought back to the team. And then are those even the options that they're going to go with? Because there's potentially guys to target in the draft. There's potentially other free agent names that will be out there coming up. So we're going to go through all of those players, not obviously the 34 signed, but everyone else from this roster, active roster, that will be available for the 49ers to re-sign, including the restricted free agents. So we're going to go through all of those, so you're not going to want to miss any of that. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. That way you're notified when those videos go live. But look, this is going to be an interesting offseason. There is a wide open NFC. There is a lot of things to discuss in regards to the NFC and the Niners positioning in it. Because I know there's a lot of people who feel like the Niners are in a rebuild phase. You have a young second-year quarterback who you don't know much about. You have only 34 people active on the roster, and after you move off of Jimmy Garoppolo, it's $35 million in cap space. Can this be done? Can you retool and, like you like to say, Ant, reload? And I think you and I both know the answer to that question is yes, because a lot of your key pieces are already still signed and on the active roster. There's a handful of key pieces that you need to bring back in, and then you can do a lot of different things in the draft. You can do a lot of different things with signing maybe some mercenaries, and who are willing to come in and try and take a cheap deal and make sure that they get a Super Bowl ring on that finger. There are a lot of ways that I just can address this, and there's a lot of time to digest it all, and also trying to understand where it's all coming from. And then again, there's always the draft. And if you hit in the draft and you hit on gems in the fifth round and the sixth round, like the Niners tend to be doing, and even the third and the fourth rounds, your job becomes a whole heck of a lot easier as a coaching staff, as an organization, as a general manager, like John Lynch is and still is, and not going anywhere, to rebuild and retool this roster. And that was one of the things Lynch talked about actually in his wrap up, was dispelling rumors from, I believe it was it Boomer Esiason?
Yeah.
Boomer Esiason, that he was going to be taking a job back doing TV analyst work, and he was going to become a TV analyst again, no longer the GM for the 49ers. And John Lynch said, yeah, no, that's not happening. I'm committed to this team, I'm committed to this organization. That's my path. That's my plan right now.
Yeah, he says he's committed to winning championships.
Accurate.
And if you're committed to winning championships, you're not committed to a rebuild. You're committed to a reload. When you have players like Trent Williams, George Kittle, Fred Warner, and now a Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa that you're going to be paying, those aren't players that you rebuild around. They're players that you reload. You're going out there to win. If Trent Williams thought this was going to be a rebuild, he wouldn't want to be in San Francisco. He knows they're dedicated to go winning Super Bowls. I know when you go with a young quarterback, a lot of people automatically think rebuild. That's not the case here. The 49ers are planning on winning a Super Bowl. And if they don't believe for 1 second that Trey Lance is ready to do it this next year, it won't be Trey Lance at quarterback. It'll be a better option if they can get one. If they can't, then it will be him. But never for 1 second do I believe they're not trying to have the very best player that they can afford at every single position. They're going to be looking to upgrade. That's one of the things Kyle and John were talking about in their press conference, was they haven't had that much conversation about it because Kyle was leading the team. But they're going to evaluate each player, and they're going to talk about the players they need to move on from, the players that they need to upgrade, positions they need to move on from, and positions they need to upgrade. I think this is one of those things that's going to be a process, but they're not going to leave any stone unturned. They're going to go after every single thing they can do, whether that is targeting someone in the draft, like you said, players from other teams that are becoming free agents, or through trade, or just bringing back their own guys. There's a lot of options out there. How this team is going to look is going to be very different, but I am excited about the possibilities of what they can do, not only after they trade Jimmy Garoppolo and get that money back, because then they'll have more cap space, but they can also extend some guys. By extending some guys that have big cap numbers in 2022, they can push that money out, spread it out amongst the rest of the years, and then use that money to bring back some of their guys. So there's creative ways. I'm sure they're already beating all that to a drum. Parag is sitting there already, figuring out everything that he needs to figure out.
Trent Williams is already commenting how they need to bring Lankin back, because if they do, they already have themselves one heck of an O-line if they are able to get that done. So you already got guys like Trent Williams petitioning for teammates. Lankin's come out and said as much as well that he wants to be back here. He said everything changed when he got to San Francisco. It's where he feels like it's where his career really blossomed and began to take a turn down the direction he wanted it to be. It's very obvious that you have pieces and guys who want to be here. But like you said, Kyle and John got to figure out which guys fit the direction of this team going forward. Because it is going to be different. And George Kittle said that as much in his presser as well. Said he is expecting to have a new look Niners in 2022, a little bit of a different look and feel in the locker room with what the team is. And that's accurate because you have a different quarterback. You're going to have different amounts of money, which means different new pieces bringing in, and maybe bringing in familiar faces or guys that you know, but having them play different roles. We talked about this with Jason Verrett, having Verrett come in and be a nickel guy instead of an outside corner guy. Mostert coming in and not being RB1, but being a guy who, kind of like we saw early on in the 2019 season, being a rotational back and then being able to rely on him late in the year if you need to. We'll see. Things are definitely going to change in terms of how the chemistry and the makeup of the team looks, but we're going to see a lot of familiar faces, and they're going to be bringing back a lot of guys. Not going to be able to bring back all of them, but hopefully it'll be like a 2020 surprise, Ant, where we weren't thinking they could bring anybody back, and everyone kept saying, none of these guys are going to be re-signed. 2021 is going to be absolutely terrible. And then all of a sudden, boom, Trent back. Boom, Juszczyk back. Boom, Jimmy Ward back. I mean, the whole gang is back in full force. And it's like, oh, looks like the revenge tour is back on. That's what it felt like. So we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. It's going to be a very interesting offseason.
Yeah, the good news is, even though they won't have the same chemistry. It'll be a little bit different because every time you lose a player, it kind of changes some things.
Accurate.
They do have the cornerstones, though, to keep the momentum going and the things that they've built already. I mean, you've seen the emergence of some of these young guys like Deebo Samuel, that have taken on a different role in this team and a captain role in this team. So yeah, it's pretty nice. But yeah, the offseason always changes. This team is going to look different. There will be the familiar faces. But yeah, I'm curious to see who these mercenaries are. Anytime that you have a team that gets to the NFC Championship, other players look at it as an opportunity like, hey, wait, they were one game away. I could be that difference maker. I could be that guy.
I can help you win that game.
Yeah, that gets you over the hump because a lot of players want to win a Super Bowl and they'll take advantage of it. And if they're not getting the amount of money they were looking for in free agency, they might just turn to okay, I want to win a Super Bowl and I'll go attack free agency the next year.
Give me a 1-year deal with some incentives so I can make some good money if I perform really, really well, and let's go get a chip.
Yeah, and I think defensive linemen are going to want to flock to playing, for Chris Kasarik and
what would make you think that?
Because their numbers are going to go up in a huge way, and then they're going to get a fat contract after that.
They're going to get paid.
So that's one of the things is people are going to want to come to the 49ers if they're a defensive lineman because they see how they tear it up, and then they see what they can get out of it. Look at Kerry Hyder. He lands with Chris Kasarik, has a big season, gets paid by Seattle, and now his family's set. So that's what you got to do. Sometimes you got to go where you can have the most success, and the 49ers are going to have some guys to pick from.
You got to You got to go where everyone knows your name, Ant.
Well, cheers.
Have to.
Cheers, sir.
Well, at least, they may not know your name yet, but you get with Chris Kasarik, if you're a D lineman in the NFL, who knows? He's done a lot with a lot of different guys, a lot of different molds, different shapes, sizes, and forms.
Yeah.
Him and Darryl Tapp both. Killing it for the 49ers D-line. And there are a lot of D-line names that we'll be talking about all week long, so Cutback Crew, let us know what you thought about all this. Did you watch Jimmy's farewell? Did you get a little emotional, knowing that the Jimmy era is pretty much at an end at this point? It's just a matter of finding out where he's going to be going, or are you in complete denial? They're bringing this man back. They cannot let him go. Look at everything he's done, and in that case, all I could offer is a shoulder for you to cry on, and maybe some tea, herbal tea, Ant, something to help them calm the nerves and still bring yourself down a little bit, because the Jimmy era is coming to an end very, very soon here. Bosa and Deebo already budgeted for it. Does that make you excited? And did you like or dislike anything that Kyle Lynch had to say? Let us know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there commenting away, don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell because you don't want to miss out on any of the early free agent content coming your way very soon.
Yeah, the best way to handle this is to evaluate our own roster first. Go through the free agents of the 49ers, have available, and then who they might bring back. It's always the best conversation before we get into, which free agents out there are going to be available for the 49ers in free agency. Of course, we have the combine coming down the bend here pretty soon. And then after free agency, here comes the draft. So it happens all so fast in the NFL.
Exactly. And Super Bowl who's even going to watch that thing?
Yeah. I don't know.
Bunch of silly folks. That's who's going to watch the Super Bowl. I'm not going to watch it.
Nice.
That's a joke. I'm going to watch it.
I know. I'm going to watch it too.
I'm going to cry a little bit inside while I'm watching it, but I'm going to watch it.
I'm not. I'm excited my team made it this far.
Hey, me too.
It'd be a lot more difficult if they were just irrelevant. 2020 was not fun, people. I'm sorry.
No. I had this conversation. I told you, I had this conversation with a former player who literally put out, I would rather us just be irrelevant and not making the playoffs and be a bottom dweller than to deal with all these heartbreak losses and posted a bunch of all of the 49ers playoff losses since, like since Harbaugh, basically since the Harbaugh time and era through now. And I was just like, bro, take that and go like somewhere else with it, because I don't ever want to see it. Dude, you're like 20, 21 years old. You've had 50% of your life rooting for the 49ers where they've been great. And the other part of it, they were terrible, but you were a child. You don't know. I grew up with it. We were terrible for most of my life. Like early, when I was a kid, incredible. Playoffs, Super Bowl, relevant, competing, having a chance, and then the minute I got to a point where I could appreciate it, absolute hot garbage for a chunk of it. And then finally a glimmer of hope, and then it gets ripped out by Trent Baalke, that son of a gun up there with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm just happy that we're in this position now. I don't ever, I didn't want this season to end, Ant. I don't want this success that we're having right now with Kyle Shanahan to ever end.
Yeah, I mean, I want you to think about this. The 49ers have been to 17 NFC Championship games in their history, 5 of them in the last 10 years. We are absolutely spoiled right now.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, we went through the Harbaugh era and the Shanahan era, and I know there was some down years in there, but you want to be able to compete. You want to have that opportunity to be able to get to a Super Bowl. It's not fun, the down years. The years of not being relevant, having no chance at the playoffs is not good. You know what we got in this run? Exhilarating wins against the Rams in Week 18, against the Cowboys in the playoffs, and then against the Packers in Green Bay. Those are all moments that we could get to cherish as fans. I know because the ending isn't as good, you don't always look at those as the positive manner that you probably should. But those are things we wouldn't have got if this team would have been bad. So you want these guys to compete, and I know it hurts so much more when you get so close. But that's part of it. You get the rewards along the way as well.
I'd rather hurt. I would rather hurt, grow from the hurt, and it's going to make me appreciate the eventual Super Bowl that this team is going to win that much more when the time comes.
Oh yeah.
Knowing everything that they've been through, all of the close calls, getting there, losing, getting that close again, falling short, making a change, making the adjustments, looking themselves in the mirror and being like, hey, we're good, but we're not great enough yet. Like, we haven't done enough yet. And they make the final tweaks and changes and whatever alterations they need to make that eventually gets them over the hump and brings that Super Bowl back to Santa Clara, back to San Francisco. This organization finally gets 6. That day is going to be absolutely glorious because of everything we've gone through the past decade.
Yeah, and the people that lived through the 1970s had to live through them losing to the Cowboys, and the struggles there. And that's why 1981 was so special. These down moments lead to the special moments, the times you get over the top. So you live with the ups and downs of the franchise, and you live with this team, and we know the team is going to look drastically different. There'll be a lot of familiar faces, but there's going to be a lot of differences too, and we just have to trust that John, Kyle, Adam Peters in this front office is going to put the players out there that are going to make the team better. And I'm sure Kyle learned a lot along the way as far as what he wants personnel wise, how he sees this game of football changing in 2022. And let's see if he can stay ahead of the curve and get the 49ers back to an NFC Championship with another chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Let's do it to it. Cutback crew. Lots of things to talk about. Lots of things still coming your way. Make sure you're here for all of it. Subscribe today. Hit that subscribe button. Be like a Chico. Is that Chico Devon? I'm gonna call you Chico Devon. Gabe Vaughn down there, the newest members of the Cutback crew. Become a member. Hit that subscribe button. Join us over on Patreon as well for additional content. Madden playthrough went up as well yesterday. Madden Cutback League is going back into full force, and posts are going up today. So as you're watching this now, if you want it, become a channel member here on YouTube. Hop over to Patreon as well. Madden Cutback League games are getting posted this afternoon, so look forward to that as well. And look, lots of stuff to talk about. Lots of content still coming your way. Make sure you're here for all of it. And until the next time, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way. The all-around Cutback crew.